Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is Real Big Ten Football Talk Plus One with Chris. I am Chris, and this is another special one here. It is another plus one, yes. I guess you could say this week it is plus two, but that would mess with the title of the show. Keep it simple, so we'll just call it Real Big Ten Football Talk Plus One again with Chris. You like that one? This is championship week. Without further ado, let's get to our third championship we are going to look at this weekend. None other than the Big 12 championship game. That's right, that is number 5 Oklahoma Sooners, 11-1 overall, 8-1 in Big 12 play, taking on the Texas Longhorns again in the Red Rivers Showdown 2. And that is the number 9 Texas Longhorns, 9-3 overall, 7-2 in Big 12. This should be a explosive offensive juggernaut of a game. But one thing we're going to be keeping in the back of our minds throughout this video is, can Oklahoma win with only offense? Why am I saying Oklahoma and why am I not saying Texas? Because Oklahoma is the favorite team. Everyone's picking Oklahoma to win. So we're going to be thinking about, as I'm talking about the stats in this one, can Oklahoma win with only offense? Because as we'll look at, you'll see why I say that. But let's not dwell on this too much. Let's get started. First of all, who have these two teams played? We have not looked at these two teams much on this show. In fact, I think I've only done a game, the first Red River Showdown with these two, and that's the only time I've personally looked at these two teams all that much in the nitty-gritty stats-driven show that I do. So Oklahoma first, FAU beginning of the year, 63-14. A good win considering where I thought FAU was last year and where I thought they'd be this year. At the time, I thought it was a really good win. But, be that as it may, you still only got 14 points. Pretty good considering, as we'll look at in a little bit, how bad Oklahoma's defense really is. UCLA, 49-21. Not bad, 49 points. But UCLA is, I believe, 4-8 right now, so not a wonderful win as we thought it was at the time. Still give up 21 points to a UCLA team that's just can't seem to beat anybody. At Iowa State, that's always a tough place to play and aim for any team from the state of Oklahoma. Looking at you, Cowboys. They did beat those Cyclones 37-27 in Ames. Did beat Army, which has been a tough out this year for a lot of teams. I believe the Army is 10-2 right now, if I'm not mistaken. Quite a good win, in my opinion, for Oklahoma. They showed grit and toughness. They haven't shown much this year, but they did beat that Army Black Knights 28-21 team. And they did play Baylor and played well, putting up 66 points for that potent offense, but that porous defense did give up 33 points to a team that barely is going to limp into the bowl season. And in the Red River Showdown Part 1, which we'll look at in a little bit, they lost to at the time number 19th ranked Texas Longhorns 48-45. Can't say it was a bad loss. It was a good Texas team they lost to, but we'll look in a minute how bad they looked in that loss. Then at TCU, 52-27 again. Give it 27 points to a reeling Horned Frogs team, who I believe I don't even know if they're bowl eligible now. I can't remember what their record is off the top of my head. I want to say they're 5-7, might be 6-6. I apologize, I can't remember. But they did crush a Kansas State team in Norman, but still, 51-14, quite an impressive win, in my opinion. Good defense in that game for Oklahoma. And then at Texas Tech, should have lost to the Red Raiders in Lubbock, but they did win 51-46. And then Oklahoma's other big rival in the Bedlam Showdown, or Battle of Bedlam, did barely edge the Cowboys of Oklahoma State 48-47. Tough fought game, but a game Oklahoma really should have lost to an unranked Cowboys team. But good win nonetheless, because that's always a tough game for both of those teams. Kansas give up 40 points to the Kansas Jayhawks. That's not a great win. In fact, I almost made it a red, but it's a conference opponent. You can't control who you play. So that's the only reason I didn't make it a red. That was a bad-looking win for Oklahoma. But you could always make the case. Maybe they're looking past Kansas, looking at West Virginia the next week. Fine, I guess. Still, you got 40 points to Kansas. I can't really give you much credit there unless you were playing their basketball team. Either way, you did go to Morgantown the week after that and barely beat the Mountaineers 59-56. We'll look at here in a minute in your profile game, Oklahoma, how bad your defense looked in that game against the Mountaineers. For Texas, beginning of the year, you started off flatter than a pancake, losing to Maryland 34-29. And you did lose in Austin. But you lost in Austin. Quite a bad-looking loss for Texas, and you could have quit. You could have stopped there. You could have shut the season down, gone inside yourselves. You didn't. You fought hard. You did beat Tulsa the next week. Again, not a great-looking win, but you did beat Tulsa 28-21 to become 1-1. What do? You follow that up with a hammering defeat of, at the time, 22nd ranked Trojans of USC, 37-14 in a game that a lot of people picked the Trojans to win that. Considering what you did against the Trojans the last time you played them. Guess who your quarterback was last time you played the Trojans? Vince Young. So, good win nonetheless for Texas. And then you did beat another ranked, at the time, Horned Frogs of TCU, 31-16 in Austin. You did beat Kansas State in Manhattan. Not a bad win, considering that is not an easy place to play for anybody. 19-14 to Coach Snyder's Wildcats. And then, of course, we already have talked about Rivers Showdown Part 1. You did beat those 7th ranked at the time Oklahoma Sooners 48-45. Did beat Baylor, not by much, but you did beat Baylor and you held them to 17 points. 23-17 you won that one, but then you lost in Oklahoma State to the Cowboys 38-35. Not a good loss, not horrible, considering the Cowboys aren't a bad team, but they were unranked at the time. And then you did lose to West Virginia 42-41, a tough, hard-fought, gut-wrenching loss if you're a Texas fan. 42-41, that hurts a lot. But then you did beat Texas Tech in Lubbock, a big-time rivalry game for you, 41-34. And then you did beat the Cyclones of Iowa State, 16th ranked at the time, 24-10. Quite a resounding victory, in my opinion, for Texas. But, again, like with Oklahoma, you did struggle against Kansas in Lawrence. You did barely win, 24-17, but a win is a win, I guess, anyway. Considering that was Coach Beatty's last game, you kind of have to expect Kansas was going to play tough in that game anyway. Well-respected coach. Unfortunate he got fired, considering I think Kansas actually might have started to turn around a little bit. But be that as it may. Now let's get started with, we'll look at Oklahoma's recent marquee win first against West Virginia last week. We'll talk about Oklahoma's offense first. We'll go with their strong suit first. Sooners, you did get 25 first downs against this West Virginia team. 44.4% on third down. Not great. 4 of 9. But where you excelled, 304 yards on the ground. Quite dominant. 364 yards through the air. That is quite dominant unless you look at the right side of the screen. Then you'll see how that paled in comparison to what your defense gave up to West Virginia. But either way, you had 20 of 27 on passing, 3 passing touchdowns, but you did throw 1 pick. 668 total yards of offense, quite dominant, but you did commit 6 penalties for 60 yards. You're committing on average a holding per penalty. That's not great, and that is a drive stopper if you are on offense when that happens to you. Did give up 2 turnovers, and you only had the ball for 28 minutes and 7 seconds. Both things in fact, all 3 things cause for concern about Mr. Sooners fan. What did your, and I'll use air quotes here, defense do against the Mountaineers? Not much. You give up 33 first downs. 66.6% those Mountaineers had against your defense on third down. 12 of 18. You only give up 165 yards on the ground. Not bad considering you give up 539 yards through the air. 32 of 49 passing was Will Grier. He threw 4 passing touchdowns. You forced 0 interceptions. You give up 704 total yards of offense. And non-factor, of course, West Virginia did commit 5 penalties for also 60 yards. Your defense did force 2 turnovers. That's the only green font I can give your defense on that one. And your defense was on the field for 31 minutes and 53 seconds. Got to clean that up. Got to do a better job in that department when you're playing Texas. Now, speaking of Texas, for your win, quite an impressive win against the Cyclones of Iowa State a few weeks ago. What did your defense do first? Well, look at that. Your defense did only give up 12 first downs. 33.3% those Cyclones were on third down. 5 of 15. Only give up 62 yards on the ground. 148 yards through the air. Did only give up 13 of 29 passing collectively for the Cyclones. That's less than 50%. Quite dominant for Texas defense. The Cyclones had 0 passing touchdowns. 1 interception thrown. Only 210 yards of total offense for the Cyclones. Cyclones did commit 3 penalties for 20 yards, non-factor. 2 turnovers, Longhorns, your defense forced, and your defense was only on the field for 24 minutes and 47 seconds. Quite an impressive victory for your defense if you're Texas. Now for Texas, what did your offense do? Not horrible, not bad. Not great, but good. 20 first downs, 53.3% on third down. I look at that stat a lot. That's quite dominant. At 50%, over 50%, you're doing a lot of things right on third down. 8 of 15, 179 yards on the ground. That helps you convert third and shorts. 226 yards to the air, not great, but well balanced. That's why I look at it. That's why I like. 22 of 25 passing collectively for the Horns. 2 passing touchdowns, 0 picks thrown, 405 yards of total offense, and only 3 penalties committed for 25 yards. Quite an impressive win. Did turn the ball over once. That's the only cause of concern for me in this game. The only blemish for Texas, in my opinion. And your offense held onto the ball for 35 minutes and 13 seconds. Quite an impressive victory for the Longhorns. Now, this is a special one. Since we are looking at a rare rematch in the college football landscape, we'll look at what happened in Red Rivers Showdown Part 1. For the Longhorns, at the time ranked 19th in the country, they were 4-1 coming into it. Pretty fresh still off that opening loss to Maryland. So you could understand if the Longhorns might have just folded and gave up in this game before it even started. They did not. Longhorns offense did get 27 first downs, 42.8% on third down, 6 of 14, 177 yards on the ground, 324 yards through the air, 26 of 37 passing collectively between Sam Ellinger and Shane Buechele. 2 passing touchdowns, 0 picks thrown, 501 total yards for the Longhorns. Did commit 6 penalties, but for only 43 yards. So relatively harmless, depending on what point in the game and in the drive those penalties occurred. Like I said, they can still kill you even if it's just a false start. Again, we'll look at the scenario we looked at in a couple of episodes ago. You're 4th and goal on the 1, punching it in. You commit false start. What's that going to do to your offense? You're going to go from possibly punching it in on the 1 on 4th and goal to you're still on 4th and goal, but you're on the 6. Guess what you're probably going to do? You're going to go for a field goal. That's what you're probably going to do, unless you have no time left. So, even if you just commit 1 penalty for 5 yards, they can still kill you, depending on what point of the game you commit that penalty in. But we won't elaborate. I won't go into too far of a tangent on that. Let's move on. In that same game, Texas committed 0 turnovers and had the ball for 33 minutes and 50 seconds, but still barely won 48-45. That's how dominant Oklahoma's offense was. Looking at Oklahoma's side of the ball here. 21 first downs for the Sooners, but their offense only did get 37.5% on third down, 3 of 8. Statistically speaking, the Sooners were quite impressive on offense and quite balanced. 222 yards on the ground, 310 yards through the air, 20 of 27 passing collectively for the Sooners, 4 passing touchdowns thrown, only 1 pick, but 1 pick nonetheless. 532 yards of total offense, quite impressive, but 7 penalties for 73 yards. That hurt the Sooners. And, of course, there was 3 turnovers and only had the ball for 26 minutes and 10 seconds. So why did the Sooners win? Why did the Sooners lose? Why did Texas win? Texas forced 3 turnovers. The Sooners committed 7 penalties, couldn't convert on third down worth anything, and couldn't hold on to the football. Had their defense on the field way too long, and I believe it did cost them at the end. Their defense just got tired. And your defense isn't great to begin with. So if you've got not a great defense, and it's a tired defense, can't get off the field on third down, that's going to hurt. And especially if your offense can't convert on third down when they get to third down. That hurts the morale of your defense even more. A lot of bad things happened to Oklahoma. Did a lot of great things. Still put up 45 points. But looking at the stats, I think the score could have been even worse for Oklahoma, personally. But either way, it was a close loss. A close game nonetheless. It was a good game. And I don't even usually like high-scoring games, but this was a good matchup. And that's why I wanted to do the rematch. Because these two teams play each other so tough, it's always fun to watch. But let's move on. Look at the last 5 means, of course. We just looked at Texas beat Oklahoma 48-45 about 6 weeks ago. Last year, Oklahoma did beat an unranked Texas team 29-24. Sooners were ranked 12th at the time. In 2016, a 20th ranked Sooners team did take down Texas 45-40. In 2015, unranked Texas, that was Charlie Strong's last year, beat 10th ranked Oklahoma 24-17. And in 2014, number 11th ranked Oklahoma Sooners did take down the Longhorns 31-26. You notice a trend here. These two teams play each other pretty daggone tough. Quite a close matchup game. In fact, each of those games, none of them have been over a 10-point margin of victory for either team. Honestly, just quite an impressive rivalry. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're ranked or not. These two teams we won at 11 is still going to give you one of the best games you're going to watch all year. It's just the way it is to these two. I love this rivalry, I really do. For that reason, it's so competitive. So let's look at the team's offensive efficiency. Again, we've talked about how explosive Oklahoma's offense is, but they do struggle on time of possession at 29 minutes per game. That can add to your defense's woes. They're on the field too much. But you do put up 583.8 yards of total offense per game. There is none better in the country. That is first nationally. Third down efficiency, I couldn't tell by looking at the West Virginia and Texas game, but you are 4th nationally in third down efficiency at 50.4%. But where do you struggle on offensive efficiency? Your turnover margin. Your defense doesn't put up enough of them at -2. That is 83rd nationally. It's not that you commit that many turnovers on offense, but your defense can't force many, as we'll look at later on. For Texas, your offense isn't as explosive, but still quite efficient. You do hold on to the ball for 32 minutes on average per game. That matters a lot, considering your defense is only on the field on the flip side of that 28 minutes on average per game. Quite impressive for Texas. Now, again, Texas' offense isn't nearly as explosive, only putting up 413.8 yards per game. That is 59th nationally. Not great. On third down, Texas doesn't do too bad. At 45.1% third down efficiency, that is 24th nationally. Turnover margin +7 for Texas. That is 22nd nationally. As we'll look at for their defense does force quite a few turnovers. Looking at the red zone, Oklahoma all in green at 4.8 red zone scoring attempts per game. That is 9th nationally. The Sooners do score 6 points, 68.4% of the time inside the 20. And they do score on average 89.5% of the time in general inside the 20. That is 19th ranked in the country. For Texas, when they get inside the 20, they do struggle. At only 3.5 red zone scoring attempts per game, that is 70th nationally. Now, when Texas gets inside the 20, they do score touchdowns quite often, 64.2% of the time, but they only score inside the red zone in general, 81% of the time. That is 89th nationally. Yes, it's only an 8.5% differential if you're looking at both teams, as I'm sure you are right now. But overall, throughout the course of the year, that adds up quickly. So that's quite a disparity, 8.5% between the two teams. And that can be a deciding factor in this game. How many times do you get inside the 20 if you're Oklahoma and if you're Texas? And how many times do you capitalize on those opportunities when you get inside the 20? Those are things to look at. Moving forward, looking at the passing offensive splits for both teams, Oklahoma quite dominant. 69.7% completion percentage for Kyler Murray. That is 5th nationally. 319.4 yards per game through the air. That is 8th nationally. Quite impressive. Only allowing 1.2 sacks per game. That is 16th nationally. But Kyler Murray does help his line a little bit. He is quite good at moving around inside the pocket. And he's only had 7 passes picked off on him all year. Not bad. For Texas, they also are quite good at completion percentage at 65% this year. That is 25th nationally. Now, Texas doesn't throw the ball nearly as much as Oklahoma, and it shows in the stat sheet at only putting up 257.4 yards passing per game. That is 37th nationally. But Texas does give up more sacks than Oklahoma on average at allowing 1.8 per game. That is 43rd nationally. A little bit of cause for concern for me. You don't want your quarterback to get hurt, and if you're giving up close to 2 sacks on average per game, that can give your quarterback a lot of opportunity to get hurt. You want to reduce that, so you want to watch the amount of sacks you give up in this game. And Texas quarterbacks have only allowed 5 interceptions, or they've only thrown 5 interceptions all year. Quite impressive for both teams. Rushing, Oklahoma does quite well on running the football at 264.3 yards per game. That is 8th nationally. But on the flip side of that, we will begin to see the Achilles heel of this Oklahoma Sooners team. Hint, hint, it's the defense. At 162.4 rushing yards allowed per game, that is 63rd nationally for the Sooners. For the Horns, they don't run the ball quite or very well. At 156.4 yards per game, that is 85th nationally. But the Horns' defense isn't too bad against the run, at allowing 136.5 yards per game. That is 36th nationally. Not great, but not bad for the Horns on defense. Looking at passing defensive splits. This is where that really starts to paint the picture, and that reminds us of our storyline of the video. Can Oklahoma's offense win? Or can Oklahoma only win with their offense? This is why I say that. Look at the left side of the screen with me. Let's look at these, and I'll use air quotes again. Defensive stats for Oklahoma on passing. Oklahoma gives up 63.12% completion per game. That's 100th nationally. How it's not ranked lower than that, I don't know. That's a horrible stat. What's Oklahoma doing against the quarterback? Are they hitting the quarterback? They're getting 2.1 sacks per game. That's 67th nationally. That's the only one that's not in red. It's only because I felt bad. That's why I didn't put it in red. That's horrible. You got to hit somebody, Oklahoma. 5 picks gained. You've picked off 5 passes. That's it. How many passes have been thrown against you? You picked off 5, Oklahoma. The 114th nationally. How many passing yards have you given up, Oklahoma? You given up more passing yards than a lot of teams even put up on offense, on defense. You've given up 286.6 yards through the air. It's 126 nationally. I learned from this stat. You know how many teams are in the FBS? 129. Yes, you're third from being dead last in passing yards given up. For Texas, not much better, but a little bit. You're giving up 59.86% completion percentage per game. That is 66 nationally. Again, not great. You're on the bad end of not great, but not in red. And you're only getting 2.3 sacks per game. Horns, that is 51st nationally. And you've only picked off 11 passes, but still better than 5 for Oklahoma. That is 48th nationally with those 11 picks, Horns. And Longhorns, you are not much better against the pass in just yards given up. At 255.8 passing yards allowed per game, that is 104th nationally. So, you see why I say this will be an explosive game. Because neither team plays defense. Moving on. Red zone defensive efficiency. At least somebody's in green here. For Oklahoma, you're allowing 3.6 trips inside your 20 per game for your defense. That's 66th nationally. Again, made that in yellow because I kind of felt bad for you. Didn't want it all to be red on your side. I'm not going to have a voice left after this video. Boy, red zone touchdown percentage. Your defense, Oklahoma, is allowing 86% touchdowns when your opponent gets inside your 20. You're allowing 95.3% red zone scoring. That's one above dead last at 128th nationally. Now, Texas, you are allowing far too many trips inside your 20 at 3.5. That is 59th nationally. But when your opponents get inside your side of the 20, you don't do too bad. You're only allowing 54.7% touchdowns inside your 20. And you're only allowing 71.4% red zone scoring. That's 5th nationally. That's quite dominant if you're Texas. But you're going up against a team that does quite well themselves when they're on offense inside the 20. So, something's got to give here. We'll see what happens. Looking at team overall defensive efficiency. Oklahoma, I can't give you any pity here. You've only totaled 10 turnovers this year. That's 7 above dead last at 122nd nationally. Again, air quotes. I use the term loosely with you when I say total defense. Your total defense has allowed 449 yards this year. It's 111th nationally. You've allowed teams to convert 44% on third down against you. It's 108th nationally. Texas, you're not much better. You've committed 17 turnovers this year. You've gained 17 turnovers this year. I'm sorry. That's 76th nationally. Again, quite horrible. But your total defense is not nearly as bad as Oklahoma on paper. But you've still allowed 392.3 yards per game, Longhorns. That is 63rd nationally. And that could have led to why you've lost 3 games so far this year. And you're not much better on giving up on third down, Longhorns. You have given up 43.2% third down conversion on third down. That is 103rd nationally. Maybe I get my voice back on this next screen. Offensive scoring. There we go. Now, Oklahoma, again, as we've talked about. Your offense is dominant. I'm not 1,000,000% not going to argue. Your offense is amazing. But just as opposite, I guess, of not amazing is your defense. You're like two sides of a coin, Oklahoma. So, either way, we're not going to elaborate on that. Let's look at your offensive scoring. Oklahoma, no one scores better than you have this year. You have put up 50.3 points scoring per game. That is first nationally. What do you do in the first quarter, Oklahoma, on offense? Only one team is better than you at scoring in the first quarter. You have put up 13.3 points. That is second nationally. What have you done in the fourth? On average, Oklahoma, you have put up 11.3 points in the fourth quarter alone. That is fifth nationally. Quite impressive, Sooners. For the Horns, you're not scoring nearly as many points as you'd like. You have put up 31.7 points per game. That is 36th nationally. In the first quarter, you start out a little bit slow, Texas. You have put up only 7.2 points per first quarter played. That is 45th nationally. But you do struggle, and that's putting it lightly in the fourth quarter at scoring, Texas. You're only scoring 4.8 points in the fourth. That is 111th nationally. That's quite... Again, my voice is killing me. That's just bad. Let's move on. Oh my God. Defensive scoring efficiency for both teams. Okay, this is where Chris loses the rest of his boys. Oklahoma, you're giving up 32.8 points per game. It's 93rd nationally. What are you doing in the first quarter? You're giving up 7.2 points in the first. That's 88th nationally. And just when you think it can't get much worse than that, Sooner fans, for your defense, you're giving up 8.4 points in the fourth. That's when you gotta shut the door. You don't in the fourth, but it's okay, Oklahoma. Texas does worse in the fourth, we'll look at. Texas, how much points are you giving up on defense in average overall? You're giving up 25.2 points. Not horrible at 45th nationally. But you're giving up 7.1 points per first quarter played. That's ranked one behind Oklahoma, or one ahead of Oklahoma, rather, at 87th nationally. But Texas, you give up 10. You give up 10.2 points per fourth. Your gain outscored 5.4 points in the fourth. That might be why you've lost 3 games this year. It's 124th nationally and giving up 10.2 points per fourth played. Let's move on before my voice goes anymore. Self-imposed errors. Both teams do struggle on penalties. Oklahoma, you have committed 6.17 penalties per game. That is 69th nationally. Cause for concern moving forward, definitely. But if you do get into the playoffs or whatever bowl game you go to, I've noticed that a lot of high-profile teams do commit a lot of penalties. I don't know why, but it may hurt you, it may not. You never. It's hard to tell at this point in the year, it seems like. But you have left 61.67 penalty yards on the field per game, Oklahoma. But neither team does horrible on turning the actual ball over. Both offenses are quite efficient in that department. Oklahoma's only given up 12 turnovers this year, and that is 14th nationally. For Texas, penalties have also hurt you as well. 7 penalties committed per game. That is 95th nationally. But only 58.83 penalty yards per game. Not horrible. But still, even just 5 can seriously affect what you do depending on what point in the game and what point of the drive you committed that 5-yard penalty, for example. Turnovers lost, even better for Texas. They're only giving up 10 turnovers per game, or 10 turnovers in total, I'm sorry. Yeah, 10 per game, that'd be great. At only 10 turnovers lost this year, that's 6 nationally for the Horns. Quite impressive. There we go. Now I can get my voice back a little bit. Neat little tidbits. That's nice and easy and doesn't require me yelling at the top of my lungs. Teams did play each other for the first time in 1900. I actually figured this rivalry was older than that. Texas did win that matchup in Austin, 28-2. In 1900, Oklahoma was not yet even a state, which is actually, I didn't know that. That's actually quite interesting, I thought. They were still considered a U.S. territory, Oklahoma. This is the first, as far as I know, the first ever rematch of these two teams in the same season. If I'm wrong about that, please let me know. I would like to know that. Both teams have played each other while both ranked. Okay, I'm wrong about that. I don't know what I was talking about. They have not played each other while both ranked the last 5 meetings. I apologize. I think I must have used that in their video. But these two teams have played each other every year since 1929. I haven't really seen any other matchup like that. I mean, I think even Ohio State and Michigan, it was like in the 30s or 40s. I want to say in the 50s when they started playing each other every year. It was weird, but so far, this is the only matchup I've seen that they have played each other every year since that far back. That's actually that's no wonder why they hate each other so much. I love rivalry. I just love storylines like that. I'm sorry. Texas does hold this advantage in this series. 62 wins, 46 losses, and 5 ties with this Sooners team. Texas' all-time win-loss tie record, 907 wins, 369 losses, 33 ties. For Oklahoma, not too bad as well, at 895 total wins, 324 total losses, and 53 ties. Keys to the game for both teams. Oklahoma needs to score on your first possession and keep Texas out of the end zone on theirs to gain some much-needed momentum early. You're basically playing a basketball game. It's whoever can stop the opposing team from scoring even just once can win this thing. Your best defense can be your offense, Oklahoma, honestly. And you have to hit somebody on defense. Can't allow Texas to get into a shootout with you. You have to hit their quarterbacks, make them feel uncomfortable, and pull away. You have to force Texas into a run-heavy team, force incompletions in the passing game. Get off the field on third down on defense, Oklahoma. You have not done well on that this year. You got to do it in this one, or you're going to lose because your defense is going to get gassed like they did in the Red Rivers Showdown Part 1. And you have to continue your dominance on offense. Your offense is great. You don't need to change that. You just have to keep a balanced attack to keep Texas's defense guessing. You've done well on that all year with your offensive play calls. For Texas, what you have to do, you have to play smart and focused. Let's be honest, you were a little bit lucky in your previous game with this team. They're going to want to prove it was a fluke, even though you forced 3 turnovers and you held onto the ball for a lot longer. You still barely won. You have to disguise your coverage on defense to try and confuse Kyler Murray, Texas. You have to force him into making mistakes to give yourselves a chance. You must slow down Oklahoma's potent offense. Good luck. But you have to do that by forcing incompletions by getting pressure on Kyler Murray. You've also struggled on getting at the quarterback yourselves, Texas. So this will be a tall feat for both of these teams. In fact, I think this game can be won or lost on how many times each opposing defense gets to the opposing quarterback. For Texas, you have to avoid 3rd and longs. Your offense isn't as explosive as Oklahoma's, as we've looked at in the stat sheet. I lost my train of thought. Your offense isn't as explosive as Oklahoma's to convert consistently on 3rd and longs. So you've got to try to get yards on 1st and 2nd down consistently so that when you get to 3rd down, you're at 3rd and 5 or under. You're at 3rd and 6 or over consistently. You're going to be kicking the ball more, and you're going to be giving that potent offense the ball back way too often. You have to win the turnover battle, and you can't commit too many penalties, Texas. That has been killing you all year. You've done well at forcing turnovers, or at least better than Oklahoma. You got to do that in this game. You forced 3 in the first Red River Showdown. You've got to do similar in this game to give yourselves a chance. Now, who to pick? Now to answer my question, at least this will be my pick. Not just my opinion, but my gut. And based on the stats, based on the body of work, based on the recent games we've looked at for both of these teams. So, the question that I posed in the beginning of this video. Can Oklahoma win on their offense alone? Basically without any defense. Well, not literally, but you know what I mean. Well, the answer is surprisingly yes, I believe so. I believe Oklahoma will do enough on offense because their offense is great anyway. I think their defense will do enough. I think their defense will force a turnover, a 3-and-out, something against Texas's offense that will allow their offense to get the ball back and score again. And I think Texas will eventually get gassed. Finally, I think they'll get gassed. I think Oklahoma's offense will pull away towards the end of the game. And this will be an Oklahoma victory, 58-45. Although it'll probably be closer than that. But I do think it'll be a high-scoring affair. But I think Oklahoma is still quite angry about losing to Texas earlier in the year. So many people are saying if Oklahoma loses, it's going to be locker room material for this Oklahoma team. I'm not picking against the Sooners. I'm picking the Sooners to win 58-45 in a hard, well-fought game for both teams. But Texas, I don't think you're going to get lucky in this game. Thank you. Now, thank you for watching. I apologize. I know it's been longer than I want it to be, but I did want to elaborate on a few things just because this is a rare rematch in college football. We don't see that too much. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for stopping by. Please share this video with your friends. Like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you do want to see more content from me. And if you do hit that subscribe button, don't forget, hit the little bell beside the subscribe button that notifies you when I post new content. That way you can see it and you can say how much you hate me for picking against your team or how much you love me for picking your team. Maybe you like my voice. Maybe you hate my voice. Maybe you want to tell me, shut the heck up once in a while and just talk about the stats. Whatever the case may be, please let me know in the comment section below. If you didn't like this video, maybe I yelled too much. Maybe you're a Texas Longhorn fan. You just hate me because I picked the Sooners. Whatever the case may be, hit that thumbs down. Let me know in the comment section why I suck and why you hate me. But, be that as it may, enjoy the games this weekend. I know I'm going to enjoy myself. I am off this weekend, so I am going to be relaxing and watching some college football. I hope you are able to as well. And until next time, folks.